All right, real quick, I gotta talk to you because something interesting is going on with the team right now. These aren't the kind of moves that blow up headlines or get everyone screaming on TV, but if you've been paying attention, you can tell there's a bigger plan taking shape behind the scenes. It's the kind of stuff that usually ends up mattering way more once the season actually starts. And honestly, it says a lot about where this team is heading. So come with me, and I'll tell you everything in detail. But first, if you're a true fan, click the like button and write in the comments. Go Seahawks! The Seattle Seahawks quietly made a series of moves that might not be dominating national headlines right now, but when you really dig into what's happening behind the scenes, it becomes clear this organization is laying down the kind of foundation that winning teams are built on. And it starts with a decision that speaks volumes about the culture inside that building. The team chose to take care of safety D'Anthony Bell in a way that goes far beyond stats or box scores. And if you understand what that means for the locker room and for future free agents watching from afar, you realize this is much bigger than just one player getting recognized. Bell spent most of last season with Seattle, contributing as a depth piece, stepping in when needed, and doing the kind of work that rarely gets highlighted but is absolutely essential for a championship-caliber roster. He was active when called upon, contributed on special teams, and brought energy and reliability whenever his number was called. But the reality of the NFL is brutal, and during one of those roster fluctuations, Bell found himself waived with the expectation he would return to the practice squad. That opportunity never came because the Carolina Panthers signed him, pulling him away before the Seahawks made their Super Bowl run. Now, here's where things get interesting, and honestly, where Seattle separates itself from a lot of other franchises. Even though Bell was no longer on the roster when the Seahawks reached the Super Bowl, the organization still made sure he received a contract and, more importantly, a Super Bowl ring. That decision wasn't mandatory, it wasn't required, and it certainly wasn't something every team would do. But Seattle did it anyway, and that sends a message across the entire league. This is a franchise telling every fringe player, every special teams contributor, every depth piece fighting for a roster spot, that if you commit to this team, if you give everything you have, you will be respected and taken care of. And that matters more than people think. When players are choosing between similar offers, especially veteran minimum deals, culture becomes the deciding factor. Knowing that an organization will honor your effort even if circumstances don't go your way can be the difference between signing in Seattle or going somewhere else. And this isn't just about goodwill or doing the right thing morally. This is a strategic advantage. Teams that build trust internally often get more out of their players. Guys play harder, they buy in deeper, and they're willing to accept roles that might not be glamorous because they know the organization values them. That's how you build depth, and depth is what carries teams through long seasons and into championship runs. Speaking of depth, the Seahawks didn't stop there. They also made a move to strengthen their safety group by bringing in Rodney Thomas II, a player coming from the Indianapolis Colts with a reputation for intelligence, versatility, and strong special teams play. Thomas isn't necessarily a headline-grabbing addition, but when you listen to what his former coach Shane Steichen had to say, you start to understand why Seattle targeted him. He described Thomas as a very smart and cerebral player, someone who handled multiple responsibilities in the secondary, and even contributed as a personal protector on punts. That kind of versatility is exactly what Seattle is prioritizing right now. They're not just looking for starters, they're building a complete unit filled with players who can step in at any moment and execute. Thomas has mostly been a rotational or third safety throughout his career, but those are often the players who become critical when injuries hit. And if there's one thing we've seen time and time again in the NFL, it's that seasons can hinge on how well your depth performs under pressure. You look at the current safety room, and you see a mix of established talent and emerging contributors. Julian Love stands out, and there's growing expectation around players like Ty Okada stepping into bigger roles. Adding someone like Thomas creates competition, raises the floor of the unit, and ensures that if something goes wrong, the drop-off isn't catastrophic. It's a quiet move, but one that could pay off in a big way over the course of the season. And then shifting to the offensive side of the ball, there's another development that might end up being one of the most intriguing storylines moving forward. Quarterback Jalen Milroe, currently viewed as a developmental piece and sitting behind Sam Darnold, is putting in serious work this offseason with Jordan Palmer, one of the most respected quarterback trainers in the game today. This is where things get really fascinating. Palmer has built a reputation for helping quarterbacks unlock their potential, most notably playing a role in Josh Allen's transformation from a raw, inconsistent passer into one of the league's elite talents. He's also worked with Sam Darnold, who has seen a significant resurgence in his career. So when you hear that Milroe is training under Palmer, it immediately raises the ceiling of what he could become. Because, let's be honest about Milroe. Physically, he has everything you could want. He's athletic, he's strong, he has a powerful arm, and his upside is undeniable. The concerns have always been about his accuracy and his ability to read the field consistently. Those are fixable issues, but only if the right coaching and development are in place, and if Palmer can help him take even a step forward in those areas, the Seahawks suddenly have options. Maybe he develops into a legitimate successor down the line. Maybe he becomes a valuable trade asset that brings back significant capital. Or maybe he simply becomes one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league, giving Seattle security at the most important position in football. No matter how it plays out, this is exactly the kind of low-risk, high-upside situation teams should be investing in. When you connect all these moves together, a pattern starts to emerge. The Seahawks are focusing on culture, depth, intelligence, and development. They're making decisions that might not dominate headlines today, but could have a massive impact tomorrow. They're rewarding players who buy in, adding smart and versatile pieces to key positions, and investing in the future at quarterback. This isn't sluchinist. This is a clear organizational philosophy taking shape. And if you're a Seahawks fan, there's a lot to be excited about, because these are the kinds of moves that build sustainable success, not just one-year flashes. Now the big question becomes how all of this translates once the season actually begins. Because on paper, these are smart decisions, but execution is everything in the NFL. Still, you can't ignore the direction this team is heading. So when you look at everything we just broke down, from DeAnthony Bell being rewarded, to Rodney Thomas II reinforcing the secondary, to Jalen Milroe potentially unlocking his upside, which of these moves do you think will have the biggest impact on the Seahawks moving forward? And this is where everything starts to come together in a way that should get Seahawks fans genuinely excited. Because what we're seeing isn't just a collection of random moves, it's a front office and coaching staff, clearly operating with a long-term vision that balances immediate competitiveness with future flexibility. And that's something not every team in the league manages to pull off. When you go back to the DeAnthony Bell situation, it's easy to initially look at it as just a feel-good story. But the ripple effects of that decision are going to be felt far beyond one player. Around the league, agents talk, players talk, and reputations spread quickly. The Seahawks just reinforce the idea that if you step into that building and give everything you have, you're not just another disposable piece. That matters when you're trying to build a roster filled with hungry, motivated players who are willing to embrace roles that don't always come with headlines or big contracts. And then you layer in the Rodney Thomas II edition, and it becomes even clearer that Seattle is prioritizing intelligence and adaptability on defense. This isn't just about having talent, it's about having players who understand the game at a high level, who can adjust on the fly, and who can be trusted in multiple situations. Thomas brings that Ivy League background, that reputation for being cerebral, and that experience of doing the little things right, especially on special teams, which often ends up being the hidden difference in tight games. Think about how many times games swing on field position, on a single mistake in coverage, or on a missed assignment during a punt or kickoff. Those are the moments where players like Thomas prove their value. And if he's pushing others in that safety room, creating real competition behind names like Julian Love and the emerging Ty Okada, then suddenly you have a unit that's not just solid, but resilient. That's how you survive a full NFL season. Now shifting back to the offensive side, the Jalen Milroe development might end up being the most intriguing storyline of all, because this is where the ceiling of the franchise could quietly expand. Training with Jordan Palmer isn't just another off-season workout note. It's a signal that Milroe is serious about refining the exact areas that have held him back. And let's not overlook what that could mean in practical terms. If Milroe starts showing improvement in reading defenses, tightening his mechanics, and becoming more consistent with his accuracy, the Seahawks suddenly find themselves in a very advantageous position. Because having a quarterback with that level of athleticism and arm talent begin to put things together is one of the most valuable assets you can have in today's NFL. At that point, Seattle isn't boxed into one path. They're not forced into rushing a decision, and they're not dependent on a single outcome. If Sam Darnold continues to perform at a high level, great, you have stability. If Milroe develops faster than expected, now you have a potential transition plan. And if both scenarios hold value, you even open the door to leveraging that depth into future assets through trades. That's how smart teams operate. They create options instead of limitations. There's also a psychological element here that shouldn't be ignored. When younger players see someone like Milroe investing in elite-level coaching, it sets a standard across the roster. It reinforces the idea that development doesn't stop once you make it to the league. That kind of mindset can elevate an entire quarterback room, and, by extension, the offense as a whole. And when you zoom out and look at everything together, it's hard not to notice the consistency in approach. Reward effort and loyalty like they did with Bell. Add intelligent, versatile depth like Thomas. Invest in high-upside development like Milroe. These aren't flashy headline moves, but they are the exact kind of decisions that build a team capable of sustaining success year after year. Because at the end of the day, championships aren't just won with star power. They're won with complete rosters, strong culture, and the ability to adapt when things don't go according to plan. And right now, the Seahawks look like a team that's preparing for all of it. So if you've made it this far, you already know you're locked in on everything happening around this team, and you don't want to miss what comes next. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, and click on the video that's on your screen right now, because the fastest updates and the most important Seahawks news, you're only going to find it right here. Go, Seahawks!